Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Office Hours. My name is Kayla Priest, and I am here with Harry from our Client Marketing Department.
Hello.
And we are going to talk about ListCast. So I'm curious to know of who has joined us already. Give me a quick yes in the chat if you are currently running ListCast ads on your platform. That way I know if we are talking to people who are already using it and want to know more, or if we are talking to people who are curious about why they should be using it. That will help us gear our content a little bit towards what you're experiencing. But before we dig into ListCast, I want to turn it over to Harry and tell us a little bit about your role here at CINC.
Sure. So I am Harry Hot Sauce Kierbow. I am the guy you heard coughing as soon as the recording started. We've been sitting on mute and I've been holding my coughs in, but I decided that 3:01 is the perfect time to do it. So that's my cough. But when I'm not coughing, I am the Senior Director of paid social media marketing here at CINC, which essentially means that I get to play on Facebook professionally, which is a lot of fun. So, in my role, I get to not only work hands-on with a lot of the ads that we're running, but also get to kind of guide the strategy and development of where the program will be, 3 months, 6 months, 12 years from now. And try and set us up for success there and provide, products that are good for our clients that drive good value. So, that's basically what I do. I'm either working on ads or kind of guiding that strategy and helping to lead the team that delivers all the Facebook ads that we have for clients.
Yeah, so a lot of clients do Google marketing as well. So if you currently do Google marketing, that is someone else's expertise on the client marketing team.
Yep.
Harry handles all of those social media kind of advertising ideas and ads and all of that, especially Facebook.
We always tell people that if you are on our support team, if you're speaking with a client that has a crazy idea for an ad, it may not work on Google, but come find us because we can probably figure out a way to do it. So
yeah, and that is actually a great segue into ListCast and how it came about. So let's go ahead and talk about exactly what ListCast is, because we see here on the screen it's dynamic property remarketing on Facebook, Instagram, and the Google Display Network.
Yep.
So let's break that down a little bit because I got some responses and we're about 50-50 on those currently running ListCast ads and those that are not. And even if you already are running them, you might still not completely understand exactly what's being run. So kind of break down that dynamic property remarketing for me.
Well, I think that's a good way to frame it, because it was interesting. Me and Dan Lott, who runs the client marketing team, we always talk about, when we first started talking about ListCast, we were saying, we were very excited. We were geeked up, geeked up and geeking out, kind of. It's like, man, the conversion rate is this, and it's doing this and this and this and this. And it's like, we told people about it and they were just kind of like, okay, I don't understand what you're saying. So, I think breaking it down is important. In a nutshell, what ListCast is doing is it's tracking the activity that people are taking on your specific site, whether or not they register. And it's looking at, okay, Kayla's on my site. Kayla is looking at homes in Marietta with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, between the prices of $200,000 and $250,000. So it tracks what Kayla's doing on the site, and there's nothing that happens on the site. But then when that person goes back to Facebook or Instagram or plays Candy Crush or goes to ESPN or Fox News, wherever, they're going to be eligible to have ads shown to them that show homes. And it's possible that the home that Kayla was looking at would be in that ad. But what's really powerful about ListCast, and Facebook did a great job of naming it, ListCast utilizes a tool that Facebook calls the recommender, which takes homes that are it takes the homes that you were looking at, and it literally scans this catalog, and it says, okay, this is what Kayla was looking at. What are the homes that we have that are eligible to show in these ads that are most like what Kayla was looking at? And again, it's looking at location, beds, baths, square footage, any of that information. We give as much information as we can in those catalogs for matching. And so then, Kayla goes, let's say she goes to Facebook, she sees an ad from your CINC site that might include the home that she was looking at, but then it also includes 4 additional homes that she was looking at. And what we're seeing is that does a really good job at bringing people back to the site. And we really have two kind of groups that we're focusing on with ListCast. One group is people who, I don't know, it doesn't matter. One group consists of people who hit your site and they looked at a property, the registration form popped up, and they said, no way, they bounced out. So if you think about it, you're already paying to get that person on the site, whether they're coming from Google or some other ad spend, you're paying ad spend or man hours, one way or the other. So you've paid to get them to your site. They were interested, they looked, but not interested enough yet to give you a name, email, and phone number, even if it's a fake one. Not there yet, but they're interested, right? So that's what puts them into the audience, and that's, we like that a lot, because the holy grail of what we do is intent, and they're on your site. There's intent right there, but they didn't register, so they leave, and then we'll show them ads in an attempt to bring them back and have them register a second time. We call those, again, creative naming, second chance leads. Mm-hmm. So that's one group that ListCast focuses on. And then the other group that ListCast focuses on are the people who do hit your site and do register. We have a slightly different campaign running to them. And the goal there is, and I always use this example, when we bought our last house, my wife was probably on 10 or 15 different websites. She would see a home on Facebook, click on it, get there, be forced to register, and put in sometimes her information, most of the time not her information. So then if you think about it in terms of resources from the back end for our clients, you've got 10 clients that are spending time, energy, man hours following up with my wife, who has no intent, to purchase with at least 9 of them. Mm-hmm. So another question that we look to answer with ListCast is, how can we make sure that lead that you work so hard to get stays engaged with your site over the, the 6 months, the 12 months, the 2 years? The longest I've seen, I saw that Facebook post, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, somebody had been in the system for over 8 years, mm-hmm. And was not contacted. And then finally one day just wrote back and was like, okay, I'm ready. Yeah. So, how do we keep that person, hopefully not 8 years, but if it is 8 years, how do we keep them engaged with our clients and that site, so they're not spinning their wheels to lose the deal eventually?
Mm-hmm. So that's actually opening up a good question. So you talk about, I'll start here, the second chance lead. So I came to the site, I saw the registration form, something in it scared me, and I said, no, I don't want to register right now, so I leave. You're going to follow me in an attempt to try to get me back to actually register. Mm-hmm. So how long are you trying to kind of guide that person back to the site? So
the way that campaign is a lead ad campaign. I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but so that's a lead ad type. Mm-hmm. And the reason that we do that is because most of the traffic on Facebook, over half of it, is mobile. Mm-hmm. And lead ads are really great at converting mobile traffic and also at getting good contact information. So that's a lead ad campaign. People in that campaign that hit your site and don't register, we follow them around for up to 30 days. Mm-hmm. And that's of either performing a search and seeing a list of homes or looking at a home. Mm-hmm. So 30 days, they'll be in that audience after they perform a search for homes or look for homes, mm-hmm. and do not register.
Yeah.
That would be how long they'd be in that first campaign.
That's cool, because that is essentially giving you, I mean, whenever they're hitting Facebook, Instagram, or anything on the Google Display Network, which is like every site in existence.
Yeah.
So anytime they hit those sites, it's giving these agents and site owners another chance to actually turn that person into a lead.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, you know, we really like it because, you know, if you look at, let's take like a Google campaign or a Facebook campaign, you know, with a traditional Google campaign, we're bidding on keywords that we think people will be searching for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with a Facebook campaign, we're proactively showing the ads to people based on a demographic profile that we think will make them likely to purchase a home
Mm-hmm.
at some point in the near future. But again, you know, none of that target, we have some of the targeting in place for those to limit, you know, some of the traffic. Like ideally we don't want to show these ads to 16-year-olds, right? But so we have some of that targeting in place. But the only way that someone's getting into this audience is expressing that intent
Mm-hmm.
and searching for properties on your site. And another thing that is really important that we like to stress is this isn't just CINC sources, you know.
Yeah.
So this augments everything that you're doing. If you're sending an email and bringing people back to your site, if you're handing out business cards, if you're word of mouthing, if you want to say that, you know, Zillow, Truly a Realtor, anything that gets somebody on your website and looking at properties adds them to the audience for ListCast
Mm-hmm.
and gives them a chance to be retargeted and augment your spend that way.
So tell me, if I'm a site owner thinking about adding ListCast to my advertising, what is the appeal of someone that's already registered seeing these ads, kind of following them around?
So the appeal there, so in our head, here's how our collective head, here's how we look at it. That person who's registered is someone who, again, came from a source. Let's take Google, did a relevant search, saw your ad, clicked through, went to your site, looked at properties. When the registration form appeared, they actually registered. So, you know, they have more skin in the game there. I think they have more intent right from the start. You know, and whether or not they put in valid contact information or not is irrelevant to ListCast. They'll still get retargeted. Mm-hmm. But what we want to do, and this is kind of the second leg of the ListCast campaign. So those people that register on Facebook, we show them ads for up to 180 days after they register, or 30 days after they view a property. Mm-hmm. So that's keeping them, you know, if we just did the 180 days, everybody would fall out of the audience after registering after 6 months ago, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't want to do that. Yeah. We want to keep them in there.
So if I come back and re-engage in my search at any time after that, I'll be eligible to receive those ads again.
Yeah, and on the Google side, we keep them in the audience for 540 days, mm-hmm. I believe it is. I don't know if Eric Robson is listening to this, but if he is, he can come and knock on the window angrily if I'm wrong. He's the Google remarketing expert. I just ride his coattails for this. But so you know, that's how long people will be in. And the real value of it is, you know, ListCast with the recommender does a great job of kind of surfacing properties that these people may not have known about, right? Mm-hmm. So they come to the site, maybe they look at one or two properties, they register. We collect that data and we, you know, send that back, and ListCast shows them homes based on those two homes they registered. But then maybe when they see a ListCast ad, you know, they say, oh, wow, you know, I didn't know, I was looking at homes here, but this home's very near and very similar. You know, I actually like this one. So they click through, they look at that home. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, maybe they look at a few more like that. So now we've got, you know, instead of the 2 properties to base our recommendations off, we've got 10, right? And so, you know, maybe they disappear off the site for 5 or 6 days, and then they come back from a ListCast ad, you know, a week later, right? And they look at another 10 properties. So now we've got 20 properties to base the recommendations off. Mm-hmm. So as the lead continues to come back from ListCast and continues to interact with the site, we learn more and more and more about what they're actually looking for, mm-hmm. And the recommendations become better. And that's the way that we believe that ListCast will be very effective in keeping leads engaged with you throughout that whole purchase timeline. And to nerd out on you just a little bit.
Of course.
I was told I could nerd out.
We love it.
So, looking at click-through rates on these ads, which I'm sure everybody does because it's very exciting. But, our normal ads will see a click-through rate of, maybe 1 to 5%, somewhere in there. These ListCast ads aimed at people who have already registered are showing click-through rates of, 10 plus percent. So, that's huge, right? Whereas before you had, if it's at 1%, that means 1 out of every 100 people is clicking on it. Now all of a sudden you've got 10 out of every 100 people. And it's cheaper to show the ads as well because the audience is very defined because it's only showing to a small group of people who've hit the site and expressed that intent. So, that's where we see the value for registered leads. And that's why it's set up the way it is, because we want to make sure, on that front end, if our conversion rates are usually 10 to 15%, so that means you've got 85 to 90% of your traffic that's hitting the site and leaving. So we want to do everything we can to kind of harvest those folks and bring them back. But then once they're in, we don't want them to be like my wife. We don't want them to register on another 9 area competitor sites. So we want to keep them engaged with you by giving them relevant content and continuing to bring them back to your site.
Yeah, and from my CINC trainer perspective, we know that your wife is not an anomaly. No. Everyone is on at least 5 sites. One of them is probably Zillow, where they're getting outdated information. So we want to keep them on our site because we know they're getting relevant information. And if you're being really diligent and working your prospecting filters in the platform, even if someone's been on the site for a year, they're getting followed for over a year if on the Google network. And so they're going to pop into that P filter, your P3 filter, because they're coming back and re-engaging. So really there's kind of 2 pieces of automation there that are helping give you more opportunity to get someone on the phone. Whether they don't answer that first phone call, again, someone raised their hand 8 years later and said they're ready. So maybe they're not ready for, 8 months, but if they keep popping in that filter for you to call, they're eventually going to raise their hand. So it's a really great way to engage them and keep them with you and off of a competitor's site.
When if you think about your Facebook newsfeed, just scrolling down it, there's so much stuff there. I see because I'm always on real estate websites, like not just our CINC sites, but competitors' websites and stuff. So my Facebook newsfeed is all real estate ads. And so many of them are, like I'm the best realtor and all this, and there's value there. There is to people, but also, or alternatively, I'd say, think about the value of that person scrolling down and they've been looking at houses, and all of a sudden there's a house in the area where they've been looking at. Here's 4 others that are just like it, and it's got a scrolling carousel. It's like a walkthrough of each house. There's a lot of value there. And that's the kind of stuff that can, make them utilize your site and make them connect with you. And then, once they do, you can kind of take that offline and work them through the system.
Yeah, so, and you're going to be able to see the homes that they have viewed on your site because we track all of that data. So you really have a clear picture of what they're looking for, which makes you more educated when you give them that phone call, which I think is so cool.
I agree.
So you mentioned that cost per lead is pretty low with this. So let's go ahead and take a look at this graph that you shared with me, which I'm always interested in seeing a graph that has gone down this drastically. So this is showing us since November of 2018. We actually announced ListCast at Summit last year, which is always in October. So that's why the data starts then. So it started about a year ago. So taking us up to August when we have complete data. Tell me what we're seeing on this graph.
So there's several enhancements that happened to produce this trend. So when we first launched ListCast in November, it was right after Summit. At that point, and and this kind of walks you through the evolution of like how we've learned as we've been doing this too. So when we first started it, we really only had the campaign. When I talked about the different campaigns, we really only had one of those in place, and that was the one to people who had registered. And our thought process there was, these are the people who care the most. They're the ones who registered. So we want to focus everything on just bringing them back. And those people that, hit the site and didn't register, we don't want to focus on those. And that was a mistake, and you can see that in the very beginning.
And we're up about $60 a lead.
Yeah, where you've got about $60 a lead. I mean, the leads that were coming through were good, but that's not sustainable. And I don't think that's very valuable either. Because in the end, this is a numbers game, and if numbers are low, return is low. So that's when we really started focusing on bringing the cost per lead down. Right as we get into that February-ish area, that's where we started adding where is it? I've got it listed here. Yeah, so in March of 2019, which is right where it really bottoms out, we add the lead ad variant. And so that lead ad variant is the campaign that's targeting the people that hit the site and don't register.
Those second chance leads.
Right. And we had tried that initially outside of the lead ad, didn't see as great of results because they don't convert as well on mobile. But once we got the lead ad situated and then, that new campaign strategy implemented, that really dropped cost per lead. And so, we've continued to make some small tweaks to it to bring that cost per lead down. And we would expect that it'll continue to go down just over time because, as your ListCast campaign progresses, more and more people hit your site, more and more people get into your audience. And
the recommender is getting smarter.
The recommender is recommending its heart out.
Yeah.
And getting smarter as they click back and learning more. I mean, it's just like a realtor, those first few houses that you show someone maybe misses, but you'll learn over time based on their feedback. So then when we get into, July of 2019, I think we've got a slide that shows this, but you don't have to put it up. I mean, you can.
Let's see what's next.
Oh, yes, it's working. It's GIFing. We're GIFing so hard right now.
So it's not our graph, but
so this shows
diverge a little bit.
Yeah. Well, this does speak to it. So
okay.
As you see the cost per lead continue to drop, so the huge improvement is beginning of the year till March-ish, and that's where we had the lead ads. But we still are seeing the cost per lead drop as those audiences develop, as those audiences develop, as the recommender learns more. And then just recently in July of this past year, we added the carousel slideshow variant, which is what's on the screen right now. And so this has been really good. And so the way that this works, within every ListCast campaign or ad set, there are 3 different ads. There's a single image ad, which would show, one of these properties on the screen. There's a carousel ad, which would look just like this one does, except for the scrolling portion. They wouldn't scroll through images. And then we just added what we call the carousel slideshow format. That's what this is. So it'll take those properties based on what people are looking at, and it will automatically create a slideshow of the first 5 images that are on that listing. And again, to get a little nerdy, it was when we first, so we've run carousel ad types in the past. We haven't seen great results from them because, when you click on the image, it adds a click. It'll stop the slideshow and instead of taking you to the form. And I think people have been conditioned with an ad or something on Facebook. When I click the image, I go to the next step, and that's not what happened. So that's why we don't use these as much with our traditional advertising. But for ListCast, we saw something totally different because the audience is much more intent based, and they seem to really be interested in this scrolling carousel because it's homes that are relevant to them, and it's almost like a little walkthrough, and it really stands out on the timeline. So I pulled some stats for that. Since we've added the slideshow variant for ListCast, we've broken our CPL record the last 2 months. In August, across the board, the CPL was $3, and cost per lead is what CPL is. Sorry, but in August, the cost per lead dropped to $3.81 across the portfolio, which is a record. And of that cost per lead, the carousel slideshow on average had a $3.19 cost per lead. So 10%, lower, or more than 10% lower than the average ListCast cost per lead is coming from that carousel slideshow. And, as we continue to see those results, Facebook will continue to divert budget to that as that is the ad that seems to be outperforming everything else. So this is another thing. I talk about learning. Like, this is based on what we found previously with traditional ads. I didn't want to add this for a long time. I didn't think it was worth the resources. And, one of our programmers added it. And we saw great results, so we've rolled it out to everybody.
Yeah, that's a question that I get when I'm out doing trainings a lot is, well, I'm running my own, Facebook ads. What's the difference between what CINC can run for me and what I can run for myself? And I think this says a lot that we're doing a lot of testing. We're doing a lot of just trial and error, that if you are doing it yourself, you might not have the time. And it's not your expertise, right? It is your expertise. This is what you guys do every day. So I think that's just a big differentiator. You might be seeing this and saying, well, that can't be real because my cost per lead on Facebook is, $15 or $50 or whatever it may be. So this may seem a little crazy, but it's because you guys have really narrowed down to what's working and what doesn't work. And you're focusing now on what produces this result.
Oh yeah. And it's fun coming on here and talking about all the things that have worked out, but like for all the things that work out, there's 4 or 5 that don't, and we're always testing stuff. We just got off a call with Facebook with a beta test that we're doing now on something different. I can't say anything. I've already said too much, but, but it is, I think that is a big benefit to working with, someone like us. This is all we do. We've got 3.5. Somebody does like halftime on Facebook. I'm not saying he's like less of a person or anything like that, but so we've got 3.5 people that only do Facebook real estate ads all day, every day, for lenders, realtors, brokerages. So I think that's a big benefit. Something like these dynamic ads, just from the setup side of everything that went into it. He hates when I do this, but the programmer who actually set this up was Mitchell. And I always tell people, I pay Mitchell in hugs. So if you ever see Mitchell, he loves hugs. Maybe don't hug him. He doesn't really love hugs, but I enjoy saying that. So, he did a lot of work to set this up, though. It was very confusing. And we were able to work with our Facebook rep and Facebook's engineers to get it set up. And then on the back end, especially with the targeting changes that Facebook just put in place, we've been working hand in hand with our Facebook rep to make sure that our practices are best practices and that, we're targeting as well as we can. And then, because of what we do and the size of all of our clients' collective spend, we get access to a lot of features that aren't available to, the general population on Facebook at this point, which is what that test we're working on now is. So hopefully exciting things to come.
Awesome. Well, I'm having some questions come in, and just to let everybody know, we will get to those in just a moment. But I first wanted to share some of the feedback that we have gotten from those that are already running ListCast ads, just so you can get a little taste of now out of the technical realm, what's the feedback that we've gotten. And so I'll just start, and I'll read this in the upper left corner from Chris. Chris shared that he's been putting in about $300 a month into ListCast. He's gotten 411 leads so far. And then he shares, I see higher contact rate than normal leads. Not sure how many close as I look through the app, but I would say 4 or so. I think we started ListCast on the first site last fall. If those sales numbers are close, we made about $40K in commissions off of about 2,700, give or take, in ListCast spend. Seems worth it to me, especially when I know we can convert at a higher rate than we currently are. So I always share these things with a caveat. Your results may be a little different because everyone's site is seeing a different lead flow and they're looking at different things, and maybe your market is moving a little slower than someone else's. So, but what we do know is that this is pretty typical of the feedback that we've been getting across the board. Dustin, the next one down, shared that we started ListCast last month. In the middle of this month, we're already showing clients homes that came back to the site and registered because of ListCast. Every day we're seeing more and more ListCast leads. So I got a question that we'll touch on a little bit later about how do I track people that came back because of those second chance leads. So we're seeing, because I know when we first rolled ListCast out, it was, this is not a lead generator. Right. This is a lead engagement tool. And now it's kind of come to the point where it's doing both for us, which is really cool.
Yeah, and that was
because you made the change.
Initial mistake.
Yes, because you guys made that change. Now it's doing both for us, which is awesome. So another one here from Mike says that he's been running ListCast for a little over 2 months. I've received more than 150 leads from this campaign, and we just put our first ListCast lead under contract in less than 60 days and are working to earn her buy-side business. We've already more than tripled our expenditure on ListCast with more promising leads in the pipeline, which is awesome. Yeah, I love this. So this is just to let you guys know, now you understand the technical side, and now you can also get some feedback from site owners who are already doing this and having great success with it.
Well, it's interesting too, like if you think about the timeline, right? So we started ListCast in October, November of last year. I know there were a lot of Facebook posts, asking for feedback on it, and we didn't see a lot of responses to it. And now, if you think about it, we're closing in on that year of it being live. Real estate is not an impulse buy. You don't pick up a pack of Trident and a 30-year fix, as you go through the Kroger checkout line. So, I think it's a combination of some of the enhancements that we've made and some of the things that we've learned, and, people getting used to how to follow up with and track these leads, and also just, time. Like these people they had intent, they were on the site, they called them the first time, they didn't necessarily convert right away. But now that these leads have been in the system, and that's what CINC is so awesome at doing, the CRM, the nurturing that happens, and the task management, that kind of stuff. You can tell that I'm out of my element, but you know what I mean? Like that's what CINC does very well. And I think that's why we're starting to kind of see some of these pins start to fall.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do want to get into answering some of your questions that you've sent in.
No hard questions. Softballs only, please.
Some of them I will help with. So that one of them that we got is those second chance leads. How do I know if a lead came from that ad set?
So with ListCast, so you can tell which leads are the ones that are coming from that didn't register the first time campaign, because those will actually be sourced ListCast in the CRM. And if you think about the way the CRM works, that makes sense. They were on the site, they didn't register, then they come back. It's a new contact record, so we can source it as ListCast.
So the source, instead of being Google or Facebook or Zillow, it will actually say ListCast.
That's right. Yeah, unless your site owner has customized it with us in some way, but the default will be ListCast.
Awesome.
So those are going to be the people that hit the site and leave without registering and then come back. And then going back to those enhancements we talked about, maybe it was 4 or 5 months ago, the people that hit the site, didn't register, and then came back, like that was great. But there's this whole other aspect of value that we were really struggling to show to clients. We could see it on the back end, but like there wasn't a way to demonstrate it. So our tech team went through and created I don't know if you call it a label or
a filter.
Maybe well, they created the filter, but then there's also a call out, I guess, or from the main leads dashboard, leads that come back through a ListCast ad will have the ListCast logo on them. So you can see that on the main dashboard. But then like you just said too, if you go into your system, go to the leads dashboard, I think it's filters, you'll see an option that says ListCast. And then you can select the tick box for leads that have ListCast property views. And that will show you a filter of all the leads who have come back that are either source ListCast or have that ListCast logo. And you know, when we have clients that have questions about ListCast, that's usually the first place that I go, because it's really cool. You know, you can see not only those people that have registered in the last 3, 4, 5 days from ListCast, but you know, it's typical that we'll see, hey, here's a lead from Google that registered, you know, 2,000 days ago, and they clicked on a property alert, and that got them back into the audience, and now they're back on the site from ListCast. So you can see that in that filter, which is a really great idea. And then, you know, a big focus. ListCast itself is a huge focus for us. We think that that's where the dynamic portion of it. You know, every single person in the audience seeing their own custom tailored ad. We think that's where
the future.
Thank you. It would be the future before I got there. I appreciate your help. But you know, so we're investing a lot in it because we think it's the future. And you know, we have a lot more enhancements kind of in that pipeline to really help you see more apparently the value that ListCast is bringing.
Yeah, and this goes for your Google advertising, Facebook advertising. For ListCast, you can always reach out to your account manager and just ask for an update on how things are performing. If you ever have a question about, you know, am I allocating my spend in the right way?
Oh yeah, and we're happy to make recommendations. You know, if you're looking for like a report or an overview, you know, we'd ask that you let the campaign be live for at least 30 days and then give at least 30 days in between reports, because that's, you know, that's really how you have to look at
it's
stuff.
Not a day by day type of thing. It's looking at a large enough set of data so that you can see a trend.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Awesome. So I got another question about, do I follow up differently with these leads versus a traditional like Google lead? In your perspective, are they any different in the way that I'd want to follow up?
I wouldn't think that they're any different. You know, what we would tell people, and there is a note in the CRM for ones that come through the webhooks or ones that come through the lead ad. We would say, you know, instead of saying, hey, I saw you registered on my site, you know, hey, I saw you were, and again, you can tell I'm out of my element here, but the general wording is, you know, hey, I saw you had requested information on my Facebook ad, because again, you know, these people, the ones that are source ListCast at least, are signing up primarily on Facebook. And then they have the option to click through to your site, but they may just, you know, request more information on homes in the area and not click through to the site. So in terms of follow-up, it's not vastly different,
right?
You know, but you may want to change it up and say, hey, I saw you had registered on my Facebook ad, or you know, you guys are much better at the wording than I am.
Yeah, so that's really the main difference here, is that instead, you know, our typical opening line for a phone call is just, hi, this is Kayla from the home search site. So instead you may want to say, hi, this is Kayla. I saw that you had responded to a Facebook ad about homes in Marietta.
Right.
And then we can still ask the same question of, are you looking to move in the next 3 to 6 months, or are you just browsing? So we're basically having the same conversation with someone. It's just tweaking that little line so they can be like, oh yeah, I did click on that home on Facebook, or I did see that ad on Facebook. And it just kind of gives them a little kind of clue as to where you got their information. So just instead of saying, you know, I saw you were looking at homes in Atlanta, I saw you clicked on, you know, home on Facebook, or requested more information on Facebook. But then still asking them that same question about, you know, what's your intent? Are you looking to move pretty soon, or are you just browsing? They're probably going to say they're just looking, which then we say, cool, that's exactly what the site is for. You know, tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for. Or, you know, what prompted you to start your search now, and digging into their why for them to move. And then from there, these are people just like your Google leads are people. just like your regular Facebook, leads or people. So we're just following up with them through whenever their time frame is. So if I'm looking to move in the next 18 months because I've got kids that are going off to college and I'm looking to downsize, we know how to follow up with those people because we've experienced that situation before. So if it's someone that's looking to move really soon because they've got younger kids and they need to get in a certain school district before school starts, cool, we know how to follow up with that person too. So really that difference, just like Carrie said, comes from that initial opening line. And then from there we go with the same conversation we're used to having.
Yeah, we always see ourselves as like the promoters, we're the event promoters. Like our job is to get people to your party, and then once people are at your party, like you guys know how to talk to them, but we just want to get people there, right? We want to pack the house.
I love that analogy.
That's what we're trying to do.
So I see another one. I have a lot of leads that unsubscribe shortly after they register. Is there anything you recommend to change that? So my first thought there is to make sure that you don't have a ton of automated stuff going out in the first few days that they're on the site. Because we've already mentioned today that people are going to be on at least 5 sites. So you got to think that if they're getting welcome emails and welcome texts and welcome phone calls and property alerts and additional things right in those first few days of them registering, they're going to be super overloaded and they're going to probably unsubscribe from everything. And we want to do whatever we can to make sure people don't unsubscribe, because then we lose the ability to send them property alerts, which are the #1 things that drive people back to your site. So my first thought is to make sure that you don't have like the disc drip campaign and speed to lead and something else all triggered off of new lead, for example. So that means that anytime someone comes in and their pipeline status is new lead, it's going to send off those 3 things. So we want to make sure that we're being really cognizant of how much we're sending out at once. So my recommendation is to have speed to lead trigger off of the attempted contact pipeline stage, which means I've tried to call them, I didn't get them, I moved them over to attempted contact. So now I start to send them those speed to lead content, and that's just a CINC drip campaign. If you're going to use the disc drip campaign that we also have, I want you to delay that by 5 days. So we give speed to lead the first few days to work, and if it doesn't work, then we pick up with the disc drip campaign. And then from there, I don't want any drip campaigns turned on for them unless I've spoken to them and I know that it speaks to their situation. And that's just the easiest way to cut down on those first couple of day unsubscribes. Also, it helps if you're not leaving a voicemail when you're giving them a call in the first few days, because then they're going to put 2 and 2 together. Hey, it's that agent Kayla, the same one that sent me that email, and I'm not ready to move in for the next year and I don't want to be bothered. So those 2 quick little changes, just making sure your drips are optimized and making sure you're not leaving voicemails in that first week or 2, I think that'll really cut down on that immediate unsubscribe. So if you take a look at your site and you're already doing all of those things, give a quick call to your account manager and just ask if they can take a look and see if there's something else going on that we can kind of give a hand in correcting.
And also, shameless plug, even if they unsubscribe, ListCast would still work.
Yes, exactly. So even if they unsubscribe, ListCast is bringing them back to your site, which is awesome. Great plug. Now, I have another question. How do I sign up? Which is a really great segue into our last slide here. If you're interested in signing up or just to get a little bit more information, you can go to CINCListCast.com.
Yep.
And that has all that information and a form that goes over to Harry and his team so they can get you set up. If you have any other questions, you can also, of course, give a call to your account manager or our support team. And they have a lot of information and knowledge as well. But a really good place to start is CINCListCast.com. There's a ton of great information there. And then again, that form to send over to Harry and his team to get you started. It even has the 2 different tiers of pricing and what that entails on there. So tons of information.
All kinds of
good stuff.
All kinds of good stuff.
So with that, I think we're done. Do you feel good about everything we just talked about?
I feel great.
Good, I do too. I hope that all of you feel great as well. A big thanks to Harry for taking time out of his day to come and meet with me and share all of this cool information with you guys. I really hope that you got all of your questions answered and feel ready to start ListCast because we know that it's going to do great things for you guys. Yep. Thanks again for joining me for office hours. We are most Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. Check the Help Center for our coming dates because this is our time where we get to chat and you don't get to watch my mouse move around the platform. We get to have a discussion and learn some stuff too. I really appreciate your time. I hope you have a great rest of the week and I hope I see you on another webinar or at an in-person training event soon. Check out cincommunity.com for all of that. Again, that's cincommunity.com. Thanks again and have a good day. Bye, everybody.